bring to order the Fairfield Golf Commission meeting for Monday, August 12th. Call to order. The first thing, although it's not on the agenda, can we still do this even though it's not on the agenda?
We have to make a motion to add it to the agenda.
Okay. Is everybody a chance to read the minutes?
Yep.
All right, good. Someone make a motion to add the July...
Motion to add July 8th minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Can we, does anybody have any?
Yeah, comment on the Greens Committee report. It was Bob and Sarah, not Mike and Sarah, I believe.
Good call. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
And Harrington is spelled H-E or not H-A.
Don't I have it as H-E-R?
Not Irish.
In the members present, it's H-E-R-R.
Right.
Where, oh, here, in number 6A. So we're just going to correct the spelling.
Thank you, sir.
And also,
And number 2,
number 11.
well, let's go back to number 2. It's not Lori Laterza who's second.
Oh,
It was either me
Sarah
or Lori. One of the two.
Who wants it?
Wow.
I'll take it.
All right,
Okay,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Okay, and there was one more. Did somebody have?
Number 11? Oh, the letter spelling again.
Okay.
As amended, motion to approve.
Okay. All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you. Aye. Oh, sorry, Liam. Thank you. Why don't we start off with staff reports? Mr. Pro?
Hello, everyone. What about the minutes from the 29th?
We did those at the last meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Don't have too much to report. All well in the golf world, that's from my perspective. Rounds is continuing. Demand is extremely strong. Camps are running great. Everything seems to be going really well. I did price out tee signs that has to do with new tee sign kind of things.
For the monument. Replacement of the
The
monument.
monument.
Yeah, we can get to that later.
Yeah, okay.
We'll get to that in a bit.
I'd open any questions you might have.
I was at the driving range, moving along.
Moving along greatly. I thought Anthony would probably handle that.
Oh, okay, yeah, we talked about that, yeah.
But they're thinking mid to late 22 to 28 of August to be
Okay.
operational.
Okay.
Uh,
No events this past few weeks, they kicking up again soon?
Yeah,
September.
we'll September, every Monday in September besides the holiday, and then the first couple of October, we'll have charity outing. So we'll be getting into that in the summer week, and very after through August.
Great. Anybody have anything for Bob? Okay, moving on. Anthony, you want to handle the admin report?
Yep, this is Anthony Calabrese, Director of Parks and Recreation. Everybody should have received the golf report for July 2024. You'll see we're off to a great start for our fiscal year. We're up about 360 rounds or so. Revenue, obviously that translates to revenue being up 20,000, a little over 20,000 at Smith alone. And you'll see that par 3 is also up in revenue as well. So yeah, we're off to a great start. Driving range is coming along nicely. The electrician should be finishing up sometime this week. The plumbers are up there, or the HVAC's up there installing the heat. And then I believe the week of the 26th, Top Tracer will actually be on site installing all their gear, and will likely be open that weekend of the 30th for a soft opening, sometime right around then. So yeah, everything's going well. If you went up there recently, you've also seen that we started clearing some land on the left side of the driving range between the softball field and the driving range for the short range area, and we're working on a plan for that now. Hopefully we'll have something going later this fall or early spring. But everything's moving along, so happy to take any questions.
Anthony, is Park and Rec or the town going to do any sort of advertising or marketing or social media stuff for the range?
We'll definitely be doing social media for the range. I'll be scheduling a ribbon cutting with the first selectman's office probably for the first week of September, maybe right after Labor Day. So again, we'll be open and we're not going to wait for the ribbon cutting, but I do want to make sure we do some type of event up there to kick things off. So that's the plan for now.
Okay. And on the short course, what's sort of the steps leading up to
We're working to get an architect on board now.
Okay. So we haven't had that.
We contacted three. Oh, sorry. Yeah. We had three come out, but they all wanted to see the lane cleared first.
Got it.
Before they could really give us what we need.
Got it.
Now
So
we're
we're
getting to
close
that.
to that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Anthony, one thing I noticed on the numbers, we've talked about the non-resident issue, and it's nice to see that sort of reversed itself, or that trend is reversed a little bit, at least on the near term.
I don't think that that's the case. At least that's not what I'm seeing. I think we're almost at 5-to-1 instead of a 3-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
Don't I see for January through July 7,148 versus 6,183, or am I looking at something else?
Oh yeah, I mean yes, you're right. We're up 1,000 rounds over the calendar year last year, but I mean when you look at July of just 24, we did 6,200 resident rounds and only 1,700 non-resident. That's the 5-to-1 ratio that we really would like to see. Well, I would like to see as a 3-to-1 ratio. But again, I know we're operating almost at capacity, per round. So it's the residents are eating up the rounds, which is it's a good problem to have. But again, the revenue is going to eventually suffer because you're not getting the non-residents to subsidize it. So
To that point, I did an analysis for the last full fiscal year, and I took the actual ratio of resident to non-resident, and I adjusted residents into non-residents to get to a 3-to-1 ratio. And I added $22 a round for every one of the ones I moved from resident to non-resident. And the cumulative impact on the full course for the full year was $115,000.
yeah.
So that's what it's costing us for that ratio in that year to deviate from the 3.
From the 5 to the 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can show you the analysis.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anybody got anything? Everybody good?
Yep.
All right, Peter?
Well, we just got done verifying all the greens today. Went smoothly. Started raining in the afternoon, so we're going to top dress tomorrow, and we'll probably open up at 11 o'clock, but everything went great. The aeration today, of course, is obviously by the numbers we have here, people are still coming out to play. Got a lot of things planned going forward.
On the aeration, Peter, are you doing the greens and the tee boxes? Are you doing it?
Today we just did all the greens.
I'm sorry?
Did all the greens today. We airified them, dragged them, verticut them 2 ways.
And that's all you're going to do, or are you going to do the fairways or the tee boxes or anything?
We're going to start with fairways, and the tee boxes will be in a week or so.
Okay.
But I don't know, my guys are working hard, and course conditions, they were very good until I ruined them today, but we'll see what happens going forward. They should be very playable by next week, and then this week even.
It's good weather, we can do it. Be nice out.
So if there are any questions, a lot of work to do out there, and we're doing the best we can.
After you finish the drainage on 12, are you doing any other drainage projects?
I was trying to do it. we're starting to go to it, because I can't keep renting that piece of equipment, so we're starting to do work on bunkers, edging bunkers, and add some sand for bunkers. And a lot of these gardens, and we got to do a lot of tree work. So drainage is kind of been putting on the back burner after we're done over there.
Okay.
Not to say an emergency comes up, so we'll attack it, but.
Okay. Moving on to Greens Committee. Mike and Sarah.
Pardon that.
Hey, Bob.
I'm gonna have to run out of here in a second. From my perspective, the greens are spectacular. The fairways are clearly stressed, but that's a function of the heat, humidity, rain, level of play. I don't know that we can expect much more. My only real complaint, and it's, again, you can't grow grass this time of year with this kind of weather, but the par 3 tees are stretched, and we all know that. I don't know how to, there's not much we can do, I don't think, but for all the play it's getting, for all the lousy weather, it's in decent shape. So I have no complaints. And I do appreciate the bunker you redid on 9. I'm anxious to see how that holds up with some strong weather, but that was a great improvement, and obviously there's a lot more of that could be done when you get the time and the people. Thanks.
I agree with Bob. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. I did check out the 8th women's team. Not pretty.
It's not pretty,
It's
but
not pretty.
we're
It's
just
what
fine
it
with
is.
it. It is what it is for right now.
Yeah,
What's that with?
yeah.
I know, so I know you know.
It is what it is. But, yeah. Definitely something we need to somehow figure that out. Okay, thanks. Liam, par 3?
I think it continues to be in pretty good shape. But like Bob had mentioned, like with weather and things, some of the tee boxes get a little chunked up, but I think it looks great.
Okay, good. And feeling a lot of play too, so. Well, enough, yeah. Okay, let's move on to big extravaganza of the night.
Before we jump into this, one thing we didn't cover is we did receive back this morning the report from the USGA agronomist who came out on July 25th. I was frankly not very encouraged by his visit, but his report surprised me. I don't know about you and Peter and Bob what you thought, but I thought it was pretty comprehensive.
That was great.
It pretty much mirrored the 2021 report.
Okay.
Greens are good.
Yeah.
Way too many trees.
Yeah.
Bunkers are at risk. I wouldn't say there was a whole lot new, but there was more reinforcement on his part, in particular with regard to the trees, which I'll get into.
Okay, great. When you say bunkers are at risk, what do you mean by that?
Well, they're,
that's part of the thing, okay. I want room here.
All right, I'm gonna go through the PowerPoint presentation that the strategic plan subcommittee of Lori and Bob and myself have put together. Our objective today is to get feedback from the Golf Commission and hopefully at the end get your agreement that this is the Golf Commission's position, not just the subcommittee, and that we're ready to go forward with presentations to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. Anthony, can you hear me? Because this thing is turned away from me and I'm behind that speakerphone.
I can hear you, Mike.
Okay, all right, good.
Thank you.
All right, let's get into it. This is our 2025-34 improvement plan report. And I'm good. This is kind of fun. I haven't done a PowerPoint document or presentation for 20 years. So I'm gonna get a real kick out of doing this. And my pointer from 20 years ago doesn't work on the screen, so we'll figure out a way to solve that problem. Okay, the objective of our subcommittee. The intent of this plan is to lay out the steps necessary to preserve, I want to emphasize that word, preserve. The plan that was put together in 2010 was to enhance the revenue. And as I will show you, we do not believe that what we're about to propose is going to increase the revenue. So preserve the golf course revenues, continue a track record of revenues exceeding operating expenses, and keep the golf course to a benchmark standard of play. So that's what we're trying to achieve. What I'm going to do is I'll go through a presentation of the current state. I don't know if your pointer any better.
No, it's just a white screen.
Go through a presentation of the current state of all three golf courses. I mean, all three entities: the Carl Dickman Par 3, the driving range, and H. Smith Richardson. Talk about the improvements that we propose, and then talk about the financial performance that results from all of that. Carl Dickman Par 3. This is a wonderful story. You can see the rounds. And when COVID hit in 2021, they jumped substantially, almost doubling from the 2 years prior to that. And they've run at the 30 to 35,000 round level ever since. In terms of financial performance, there's a commensurate increase in revenues as you'd expect. And on an operating profit basis, the Par 3 golf course has been making anywhere from the low of 101,000 and just before COVID hit to as high as 220,000. So the Par 3 course is a winner. The driving range, and by the way, I don't know how you feel, Sarah or Bob. Do we think it's saturated like this course is in terms of number of rounds?
But the driving range?
No, the Par 3.
Par 3. We're getting there.
Okay. All right. Well, we've abandoned the thought of putting lights in order to extend the day. But okay, the driving range. Driving range has been all over the map. As you can see, we went from a low of $117,000 in fiscal year 2019. We had a high of about 205,000 in 2021. Once again, thank you, COVID. You'll see a significant increase in the 25 budget. As you all know, we're rebuilding the driving range. We all agreed as a commission to raise the rates for the balls. And Anthony's projection of the impact of that on the current year budget is to raise that number to $315,000 revenue. And I personally think that Anthony's usual conservatism is at work here. And that number is pretty hard. Historically, the driving range has been in very poor condition. That's why we're rebuilding it. We improved the investment of $550,000 for the 24-25 time frame. We're rebuilding the range stalls. We're adding heat lights, and that's, well, I shouldn't say track tracer, it should be top tracer technology. Construction in the short range practice area, bunkers and putting will begin over this winter. And the 2025 budget shows the first year of impact of raising the rates for the balls at the driving range. Well, I wanted to time this too. Let's make sure.
Okay.
I think we started at 10 after, maybe a little later than. So this is not new to this group, but it certainly will be new to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance audiences that we hope to address next. H. Smith Richardson, rounds history. Once again, significant jump in the fiscal year 2021 time frame. Thank you, COVID, all the way up to 56,000 rounds. But basically, the rounds number for the last 3 years has been averaging 50,000 rounds a year. And we think that's full capacity and as much as the course can take. The table at the bottom is one I put together from data Bob got me from the PGA section. And that section includes most of Connecticut and some of Massachusetts.
Correct.
And we had data as you can see here, from 45.5 courses. In other words, some of the courses were 9-holers and some were 18, and I adjusted it to an 18-hole equivalent. 1,200,000 rounds, averaging 26,000 overall, but of the municipal courses, of which we are one, the average was 36,700. And the range of rounds played annually varied from 29,000 to 49,921, and 49,921 is 8 Smith Richardson. We had the most rounds of any course in that section in this year. Financially, the course has done a terrific job. I've got here both operating profit, running $500,000 or better. Once again, thank goodness in 2021 for COVID. But on an operating profit basis, we're very healthy. The youth program is not in the golf numbers that we get from Anthony, so I put it in there as an addition because I think the golf course should get credit. We use both H. Smith Richardson and the Par 3 golf course for this program, and it brings in roughly $40,000 to $50,000 a year. The debt service is a combination of factors. The 2010 plan was basically $100,000 a year for 10 years. That was bonded, and so it is a debt. And then the big hit, of course, is the clubhouse, the $7 million. And you can see the debt service for the clubhouse really began to hit last year and the year after. The good news is you see the trend is downward, and it will continue downward for the rest of the 20-year term that the bonds were issued for. But even with that debt service, this golf course is still operating in the black. It's getting close to break even, but it's still operating in the black. We have a couple of other things that I think make this a tremendous community asset. Charity events. In the last 4 years, 3 years, 21, 2 and 3, and 24 this year, we've had a number of events which are facilitated by the fact that we have this new clubhouse and a good restaurant and a wonderful golf course. So we have had as much as 17 charity events. All of them are Fairfield-based charities. Another example of what the golf course is doing in support of the community as a municipal golf course. And we estimate that the charities will raise themselves somewhere in the neighborhood of $440,000 this year. The youth program that Bob has initiated has been terrific. This year we're budgeting for almost 400 youth in the camps and things that you'll see around this course and also the Par 3. They've started an adult clinic program, which is lessons and things, and that has been very successful as well. So we're looking at like 600 plus people participating in these programs, and the youth, of course, are the future users of the golf course. So getting them into this sport is a real important asset. But these programs, as you can see, bring in somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $45,000 a year after expenses for the town. Congratulations and thank you, Bob. Cart paths. We all know, those of us in this room in particular know that cart paths are in very poor shape. The USGA minimum cart path width is an 8-foot width, and that's principally for safety and emergency vehicle purposes. We have 5.5 miles of cart paths. I'm estimating that about a mile of those 5.5 miles meet the 8-foot standard. The remainders, about a half of a mile, are non-existent. Call that holes 9 and 13. And the balance exists, but they're in atrocious condition. They're inadequate for emergency vehicles. They are themselves hazardous and unsafe because they're uneven and they're worn at the edges. There is a risk of damage to the golf carts themselves. But even more importantly, I think, this last bullet, excessive course wear and tear results from the fact that the users of the cart path aren't using the cart path because they're in such bad shape. So part of the purpose of a cart path is to get the carts off the course and not wear it out and that is being compromised by the condition of the paths themselves. So they're in bad shape. This is a couple of pictures. This is the back nine. The green outline are the 8-foot asphalt paths that are essentially new. The red line is a non-existent area on the 13th hole, and the remaining yellow are all 6-foot wide, deteriorating, and unacceptable cart path conditions. On the front nine, hole number 1 has a brand new path all the way up to the green, from the tee box to the green. The reason we ended up with that was because a couple of years ago, when the tree people were coming in to remove the trees down here by the number 1 green, they just tore the hell out of the cart path that was there, and they had to rebuild it for us, and they did. But the balance of the cart paths on the front 5 holes are all unacceptable conditions. And on holes 6 through 9, we have one small stretch around the pond on the 8th hole that's an 8-foot asphalt path. We have a stretch that, oh geez, what did I do there? Very good. We've got a missing stretch on 9, and then the remainders are all less than 8 foot wide and unacceptable conditions. So the cart paths are really, really in need of work. Bunkers. We did a major upgrade and rebuild of the bunkers with a 2010 long-term improvement plan, but we essentially stopped doing any major bunker rebuilding. We didn't need to after that work was done. So to answer your question, Peter, about the bunkers, you can see here the history of when we rebuilt the bunkers. These are 42 of the bunkers. And the last one we did was 2015, which is 9 years ago. USGA told us they estimate the life of a bunker to be 7 or 8 years. Other resources say 8 to 10. In any event, typical bunker life, 8 to 10. We are living on borrowed time. The current condition is acceptable, but the sand quality is marginal, and something we need to address going forward. Greens. Our condition is good to very good. The USGA agronomist, frankly, was surprised and very impressed. He was out here on the 25th, as I said, and this is a quote from his report. All putting green profiles showed a good 3 to 4 inch depth of roots. This is significant considering the time of year being the end of July, when the turf should be at its weakest, but the rooting was very strong, indicating excellent agronomic management. So we are very fortunate to have the condition of greens that we have, and he gave us a very favorable score on that. Trees. We now have 3 reports from USGA agronomists, 2004, 2021, 2024. They essentially say the same thing. Trees are impacting playability. Trees are limiting turf grass growth by infringing on the course and being dense. And trees closely planted result in poor quality branching. And this one in particular, the most recent report stressed more than we've seen before. They're saying there are areas of the course where the trees are just so tightly packed together that none of the trees are as healthy as they could be and have the branching conditions that they would have if we pruned those areas.
And trees suck up a lot of water, is the real bottom.
Yeah, and I couldn't extract that into the report, but that was a very interesting thing he commented on there. When you've got trees right close to the golf course, the grass and turf compete with the trees for the water, and the grass and the turf lose.
The trees win.
The trees take the moisture much faster. Maintenance and replanting beyond the resources of the HSR ground crews. The 2021 report in particular recommended and gave us photographs and put X's on trees, etc. And we have not yet achieved all of the recommendations of that report, which they proposed as a first-year shot at the golf course. So Peter and his crew are doing their best. This is not in any way a criticism of them. They just don't have the time, equipment, and resources necessary for the kind of robust tree management program that we need. Drainage, the major rebuild with the 2010 to 19 long-term plan has been very successful. Our cart path only days are diminished. It has a lot, in addition to COVID, I keep talking about. Another reason we've had an improvement in rounds is because of the reduction in the number of cart path only days. Peter and his crew continue tweaking and adding and doing maintenance work on the drainage system. And the current state is what we would classify as acceptable and manageable. And you will see we are not putting any capital money in this plan for major drainage work.
Yeah, Mike, before you go any further, I think drainage is another area, like bunkers. There isn't, bunkers, we do have some specific money earmarked, but drainage is a ticking time. To me, bunkers, drainage, and irrigation are ticking time bombs that we don't know when they're going to surface. Could be tomorrow, could be 10 years. And part of, the money we're asking for, it's not as crisp as I would all like it to be, but I just want to impress upon Anthony and ultimately the First Select people that, this is something that these issues are going to surface. We just don't know when. I'll leave it at that for now.
And the drainage is, the drainage is original. Well, what Zach put in was new, but in terms of, Peter, of the irrigation equipment and all that kind of stuff, it's pretty much all original that you just kept alive with a patch irrigation. Yeah.
That was put in 2001.
Oh, I stand corrected. It's only 23 years old.
That's brand new.
All right. Our proposed improvements are a total capital of $1.5 million. Now, as the town capital process evolves, they will have a meeting the third week of September, and they will be looking at the capital requirements on a town-wide basis. And we are proposing that we put in that so-called waterfall $1.5 million for this plan. $1.5 million to us is a lot of money, but to the town, it's almost a rounded area given some of the capital challenges that they have. But we're proposing that, and the breakdown of that is the cart paths are $500,000. We have this uncertain bunker risk. It's kind of a ticking time bomb. We're not sure when it's going to go off on us. We're guessing that it could be 10 or more bunkers. Current cost to rebuild a bunker is $20,000, and none of our numbers have made any effort to inflate for cost increases that will occur over the 10-year period. So we're talking $200,000 to $300,000 possible exposure for bunkers. Tree management, I'll get into detail on what we're proposing to do, but the major tree work that needs to be done could be as much as $250,000. We're proposing a restroom facility at the turn between the 10th, off the 9th tee before the 10th green, and I'll get into that in a minute. We have $37,000 in there for the Carl Dickman Par 3. That is for the lightning warning system, which I presume we're going to maybe talk about tonight. And then the driving range, we're proposing $100,000 for a new building at the driving range. So here are the projects and their costs and the priority. We've got $500,000 for cart path. Because the past plan was basically uniform over time, $1 million comprising $100,000 a year for 10 years. Take our $1.5 million over 10 years, that'd be $150,000 a year. If the town wants to see it in that kind of linear or near linear progression, we've broken it down into 3 projects at $200,000, $150,000, and $150,000. The tree management and replacement program I'll get into, $250,000. The driving range building, etc. So let me go through each of these individually. Cart paths. 80% of the paths are under are either unacceptable or are non-existent. Significant safety issue, and we're talking about a total cost of $500,000. We are proposing repairs, if necessary, in 3 individual projects spread over a 3-year period. There is a timing constraint if we do asphalt pads because of the fact that the asphalt plant itself is not open all year round. It is closed basically from November to March. So that means we have to do this work when the course is open. What we would hope is that we might be able to do the removal of the old paths and the prep of the site over the winter, subject to weather, of course, and be ready so that as soon as the asphalt plant opens, we come in and start laying out the cart paths. But there's some vulnerability there in terms of timing. We are hoping that we can do this without a loss of rounds and revenue. So we propose winter prep work with spring paving to minimize the loss of rounds and play. Trees. There is a quote from the agronomist report that I didn't get into the presentation yet, but I will. He's saying, along many of the fairways, there are a variety of trees densely populated. While there are not so many areas where branches are impeding playability, there are trees growing into each other. These trees are crowding one another, deforming themselves, and deteriorating their health. There's a lot more emphasis in this latest agronomist report of the compaction of our trees than in the previous 2 reports. Our criteria, of course, is playability first, turf health second, and then general forest management as our 3rd priority. We propose removal of a lot of trees. The tree warden was up here, and he has some thoughts, too, about some replacement work, which we will continue to talk with him about and could include in our plan. The challenge we have is this is such an amorphous issue that it's hard to go in front of a body and say, here's a project. We want to take out this many trees at these locations, and we put it out for bid, and the cost estimate is X, and here's what it's going to cost you. So what we are proposing as a committee that we get a professional forestry consultant or golf course architect or someone to come in and look at our course and define for us a project that will have much more specifics and a much better estimate of what it's going to cost. Our estimate is when we define that project, it's probably going to cost us $250,000. But that's a real variable. I mean, that's a real capital E estimate. Is what
it's a scientific wild ass guess.
Yeah, okay. And we don't consider the tree work urgent. In other words, we can keep working at it, and Peter keeps chipping away at it. We think the priority goes to the cart paths first, but the tree work would become immediately after that. So that's how we want to approach the tree work, get a better definition of scope and a better understanding of costs. Bunkers. Again, there's no current issues. Last rebuilds were 9 years or so ago. We're living on borrowed time. Our proposal is that we continue with our operational maintenance, do our best to sustain and prolong the life of the bunkers, continued operational management of the sand quality, and monitor the bunkers. And when we reach a point where we see bunkers that are in need of rebuilding because they're solid, they're flooding, etc., we will then come forward as we do this on a year-by-year basis with which bunkers we now propose that we do. But we foresee the possibility of 10 or more bunkers needing work in the next 10 years. We currently estimate $20,000 a bunker, but who knows what it's going to cost if it hits us in 5 years.
And pardon me, Mike, there's a theory that if the bunker, the integrity of the bunker is intact, and you don't know that, I guess, until you take the sand out, but if we are having problems with specific bunkers, taking the sand out and replacing the sand completely with a better quality sand would, I think, make this place a much, much better golf course. Again, that's hard to cost out in this project, unfortunately, because we're not going to do 44 bunkers with new sand in 10 years, I don't think.
Just to reinforce that and jump aside, this is outside of the presentation, but where we found ourselves several times as a subcommittee is in the boundary between operational, maintenance, and capital. You know, and this plan was intended to be a capital plan. But it's true with trees, it's true with bunker, and it's true with maintenance. Peter's done a great job of doing the best he can on an operational basis, but it hasn't been enough. The course has deteriorated to some degree, notwithstanding his best efforts. And to turn those into a capital project is part of the challenge we have. And the approach with trees is to get a professional estimate of the project scope. The approach with bunkers is watch, wait, and see. There?
Yep.
Okay, continuing. Other priority projects. The driving range building. I don't know how many of you have been up to look at our beautiful new driving range, but when you go up and look at our beautiful new driving range, what stands out at you immediately is our ugly old building. Because I don't know, how old is it, Peter? 20, 25 years old? It's been
here before I was here, so it's gotta be 20, 25 years or something.
I've been here 50 years, and I didn't start coming to the driving range quite 50 years ago, but we need to replace that building. And the new building has to be adequate for personnel, for the ball dispensing machines, for the storage of the balls, and for the equipment. What do you call that machine that goes out and stuff over there? I call it a picker.
Yeah.
Okay, and storage of the picker. And our estimate is that replacing that building will be $100,000.
So you want that building to be a storage, a maintenance shed, customer service thing?
All of that, just as it is now, essentially. It's actually two buildings now. It's a trailer, but then there's a shed behind it where we put the picker. So, yeah. And whether it's one building or two buildings like that, I mean, we have to design it and scope it. The restroom facility at the 10th Tee. One of the challenges we have with this building is that anyone coming into the 10th Tee needing to use the restaurant has to go around, the restroom has to go around to the front of the restaurant, come in, go back around to the facilities that are Boca's restrooms, and then they have to go all the way back up. So it really delays the rounds. We have in that area out at the end of this building electricity and water and everything necessary to put in a modern restroom facility, and we believe that we can pipe it and connect it into the leaching field, even though the leaching field is on the other side of the building here. So we're proposing that as a location. There is an alternative, which we can still talk about, and that's to put something. We now have the portalet up by the 6th green and the 11th tee, and in place of that, if we put something in that was a lot more decent, that would be another alternative to that, but that remains to be seen. So a restroom facility of the sort we're talking about at this site would be $75,000. Lightning warning system. I still may get lightning, still great. We need one here, or we need one at the par 3. Peter got estimates that the one here at Smith would be $40,000, and the par 3 system would be $37,000. I will tell you frankly that the position of us on the committee is, if this was so important, why has it taken us 50 years to get it on the list to look at? Shouldn't it be, if it's important, let's do it. If it's not important, let's not put it on this plan.
Should the town bite the bullet and just write the check?
But I won't say that in front of the board of selectmen and the board of finance, but among us guys. So those are the other priority projects. So financial performance. This is the bottom line. Revenue growth through rounds growth is simply not possible. The course is currently saturated almost to the point of deterioration. Latent demand for rounds is extremely strong. The 4-op estimates are that for every tea time we grant on a weekend, there are at least 2 turned away and maybe more. So there's phenomenal demand that we could build upon. However, as usual, and as you people on the Golf Commission know better than anybody, there are constraints as to how aggressively we can go after revenue increases, because we have to be competitive with Cashler, Knoll, Fairchild, Wheeler, and Longshore, who are our principal local competitors. But the Golf Commission will continue to address the rounds and do our best to drive them as high as we can without getting out of line with our competition. The driving range, and I want to move this up in the slide and put it earlier, but the driving range rebuild is going to increase our revenue. You saw in the 2024 budget that Peters raised $315,000. We think on an annual basis, the driving range will bring in $100,000 to $200,000 a year above what the historical levels of roughly $200,000 have been. So that is a definite plus, and that was accounted for in the proposal that the town brought forward to get permission to rebuild the driving range. So there will be revenue growth in the driving range. Other than that, we will just push the outer limits of what we can do and remain competitive in the area and maximize the revenue through greens fees and cart fees primarily. That's it. Any questions, thoughts, observations, input? I welcome anything.
Really nice job.
Are we planning to bond this or try to pull it out of sort of operating money?
This would all be bonded.
Yeah.
But would this be bonded in stages?
Plan.
It would be bonded. The way I'm carrying it right now is $150,000 per year on paper, but it would be set based on the project. So there may be one year where we say we're going to do $300,000 worth of tree work. Again, I'm making this up. And they would bond, they would vote that year to do the $300,000 project. And then there might be another year where, it's $100,000 for whatever, cart paths. Or they may say, we want to see the cart paths all at one shot, and give us the $500,000, do it that way. So it's all going to depend, and it'll be voted on each year by all 3 funding bodies. So the point of the 10-year plan is to kind of guide them and show them these are our priorities. This is the way we want to spend this money, and hopefully that they buy into that same plan.
Okay, got it. Yeah, no, this time around it's going to be rates are higher, so it's going to be, we might add a little bit to that debt burden line, like that. That Mike could put out there in one of the first pages.
I didn't follow that.
You were saying that with rates higher, the debt service, the interest expense, which I think you talked about, is going to be higher.
Well, the interests are fixed. They're set in the bonding rate, but.
But when we did the clubhouse, the interest rates were much lower. So, the $7 million, the interest rate on the $7 million would be probably a lot less than what the clubhouse is.
I looked at I had the impression, Craig, that they've been looking at 4 to 5% maximum interest on the bond.
Yep.
That's what finance is showing now. They're estimating between 4 and 5%.
Right. All right. Any other thoughts or comments?
Please.
I'm going to be busy in minutes. You might want to go.
Okay. So
I guess my question.
Great job, but did you guys? I'm sorry.
Are we all on board to go forward with this as our golf commission?
Well, why don't we talk about it a little bit? So great job by you guys. Did you go out to get any other input from any other sort of?
Well, Peter got cost estimates on things like the asphalt and some of.
But I mean ideas about it.
Beyond the USDA, no, not significantly.
Okay. And On the bunkers, I wanted to kind of go back to what you were talking about. And, because I don't know how these things work, but, so a rebuild of a bunker is you dig the whole thing out, you put in drainage, what else is there? What's a rebuild of a bunker?
Hopefully the drainage is still good.
Okay.
So we put in.
The perfect world would be the rebuild, would get rid of the current sand. If there's any minor maintenance on the drainage, you
Yeah.
fix that.
Yeah.
Then you put in better sand, I think.
So pulling out sand and putting in new sand is $20,000.
I don't know, I don't think it'd be that much. We don't know.
It just depends on what kind of sand you want to get.
So what is $20,000? That's all, I'm trying to understand what a bunker
I
rebuild is.
think $20,000 is
Rehab or something.
if you look at the cost from the prior bunker rebuild,
Yeah,
it's probably $15,000 a bunker-ish.
Yes, in that neighborhood.
So we're figuring it's, 30.
and so what is a bunker rehab? Or a redo of a bunker?
Well, prior, when Zach was here prior, he was, clearing out the bunkers, in many cases, dredging lines to drain,
Right.
Yeah,
throwing rocks in,
Yeah.
and then sand.
Right.
We hopefully wouldn't be as aggressive this time around, but, he did 43 or 4 bunkers over 6 or 7 years.
yeah,
We're talking about doing 10 as 20, maybe it'd be 20 as 10,
yeah,
if it's just sand-ish. We don't know.
Yeah.
That's the problem, Peter. I wish we could be more crisp, but I don't know how else we
yeah, I'm
can
just
get.
trying to get my head around what
Yeah.
$20,000 means versus, dig a sand out, put new sand in.
If you read the
It doesn't
USGA
seem like it'd be.
USGA report, they talk about bunkers being redone every 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Meaning
Yeah.
we got 44 bunkers to rebuild.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not our case, right?
No, I think it would improve the golfer's experience by a lot to get these done.
Right.
I am 100% for that. I'm just trying to get my head around what's $20,000 or what's $10,000 or, you know what I mean? Is it just to pull sand out and put new sand in doesn't seem like it's $20,000. But I get it if there's something else to do. You don't know. It's like you don't know what's wrong with one day, you open it up and dig it in. I get that. So.
Well, and there isn't sand from the surface of the bunker all the way down.
Yeah,
the
right,
road. There's sand for a certain distance down, and then there's topsoil.
Yeah.
And what the USGA guy was saying that surprised me is that the granular sand itself, almost like sand on a beach, as it rubs, it rounds, and it tends to compact.
Yeah.
And so as you get down below the foot or so of sand that most of us experience when they golf, you're likely to find areas there where it's been compacted more and needs to be.
Well, that's because we haven't been
Right.
maintaining.
Yes. I
Pulling
think
it out,
exactly right.
yeah.
If you look at our sand, I think it's probably 70% sand, 30% dirt,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would guess.
And, I know there are some, the faces of some are looking like they're come in.
Yeah, well, Peter, his crew did a good job on 9 last Wednesday.
Yeah.
But, they got a lot of that to do, and that
Yeah.
takes manpower.
100%.
Can I go next then, because
Yeah.
you're gonna go long? I want to go back to the restroom. And, I strongly don't think we need it at 10. I really think we need it up between 6 and 11 or up there at the top. I think at 10, you're not gonna gain that much time or
People stopping
convenience
here.
from people stopping in here. So I don't see how that's gonna get approved. You have full bathroom facilities here, but one out on the course would be really, really useful.
You're taking a different place?
Yeah, up between 6 and 10 where the porta potty is now.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you said that.
Because then you can get it at 6 and at 10,
Yeah.
and you can come in here if you need to, too. It gives you 3 options. And it brings you up to the level of your competition of Longshore and Castro, who both have on-course bathrooms, not just at the clubhouse.
The challenge where the portlet is if you put a full, I'm sorry guys, if you put a full bathroom in there with a leaching field, you're not looking at 100,000, you're looking at 150,000. And I have a hard time believing that we can't find some alternative to the portalet that's there now that's more acceptable without going all the way to $150,000 bathroom with leaching fields?
Mike, I believe the number was closer to 3 when we priced that out up there.
I'm sorry, say that
Wait,
again.
can you say that again?
I believe the price for up on top of the hill to put an actual bathroom unit with the leaching field and all that was closer to $300,000.
Oh.
It was much more expensive.
I'm sorry, guys, I need to go get it right. But certainly something, there's gotta be something intermediate between what we have and $300,000. That's an improvement over what's up there now. I mean, the leaching field is a killer, right, Peter, or Anthony?
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Well, this plan isn't asking for the specific sites, it's the funding, something.
Well, you have a specific site in the plan, and if you
We do.
don't see that you want to put it here, to me, I'd be like, why?
Okay.
Well, it's several years out, it's a low priority. We want them to know that it's in our thinking, we have plenty of time to address the design and the location of what that should be.
Well, then at the very least, you need to take the location out of the plan,
Okay.
because it's a red flag to me, and I think it would be to anybody,
All right, we'll say either.
in my opinion.
I don't want to get stuck, we need to do something better than we have up there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we've all attended weddings where they bring in these big schmancy bathrooms,
Yeah, Anthony was talking about
like they have it
a better
down, even, where they're at, it feels like you're in an actual bathroom.
Yeah.
It's not Four Seasons, but it feels like it's a real bathroom. They have sinks, they have, individual stalls, the whole thing, so maybe there's.
Well, we can run it
compromise
either
there.
or. No problem, either at the turn or at the top of the hill on the, between the 6th green and the 11th tee box.
Yeah.
So I guess my only comment is, I wish we had the USDA report before this morning, but we didn't. But I would urge everyone to take a real good look at this because it echoes, it's almost like we scripted this guy because he echoes almost exactly what we're asking for. But I want to make a couple of key points that he pointed out. On page 2 and again on page 13, he talked about staff levels for Peter Grace and how inadequate they are. And I think that isn't so much part of the plan. I think that is more of a Golf Commission Anthony issue that Peter Grace needs more help. And on page 13, he talks about needing a mechanic on staff. That's, again, I think that's an Anthony issue, but I think it's critical. When it comes to trees, he talked about trees from pages 4 through 9, many of the same issues that we had in the last 2 USDA reports. Trees pull too much moisture in and don't let the surrounding turf get it. He had very interesting apps that showed the angle of the sun on hitting greens or not hitting greens, which is impressive, that we need to understand that. Fairways need aeration and topsoil, is something he said on page 8. Something we don't do often, and we don't do it for money and for manpower, but it's required to keep this place moving. Cart path he addressed, drainage he addressed, bunkers he addressed. And he sort of, on page 13, he talked about plan for trouble with the irrigation system. And again, that's, as I said a few minutes ago, all these things are coming, we just don't know when. And how we get $1.5 million or $2 million spread out over 10 years to fix these things, it's a crapshoot in some ways. But I think everybody should read this if you get the chance.
Oh, yeah, well, good.
So I'm glad you brought up, Bob, the limited resources from Peter's group, because I wrote that in the thing you sent me, that maybe that should be included in this report you sent me.
Oh, that's what I wrote.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important to,
But that goes back,
about, but I don't know where, that's not a
that
capital
goes
thing.
back to capital or budgeting with
Yeah.
Anthony, and that's the part, I'm only here 3 months, I don't understand all this, quite bluntly. it's something we need to understand, or I need to understand, I think.
So are we good to go in terms of Anthony's scheduling?
Well, no, that's Anthony's call.
That's okay, that's fine.
Anthony?
I hear you guys, but I keep hearing my name, but I don't know what we're talking about.
Well, before we get into that, is there anybody from the commission who has any other comments or questions on what was presented? Liam, I don't know if you have anything?
I mean, Craig does.
No? Mr. Curley, do you want to make a comment?
Sure. So Craig Curley, 109 Lakewood Drive in Fairfield. I'm a former member of this commission, former member of the building committee that built this building, current member of the Board of Finance. And I just wanted to take a moment to say a few things. First off, kudos on pulling this together. This is long overdue. It's the type of plan, as Anthony pointed out at the start of the discussion, that the other boards in town are looking for from this commission and other commissions to know that the commissioners are establishing priorities and have a longer-term vision. It's something that is lacking in many of our commissions, but as the golf operations is a revenue generator for the town, that does have a tremendous amount of wear and tear given the amount of play. There is a cost associated with preferred maintenance. And so a plan like this really does make a difference in terms of garnering support and ultimately getting approval to have the town reinvest back into this asset. So kudos on pulling this together. I did have a couple of specific comments about the work product in a little bit more detail. One, I do agree with the comment on the bathroom. Be silent on location. I do think it might be a red flag if you say you put it right there, because it's an extra, 50 to 100 steps to get inside to that bathroom versus if someone needs the bathroom on the back nine and they want to avoid coming all the way back to the clubhouse, that's the more logical place. The second thing is on page 17 of the presentation where the capital improvements are summarized by priority. If you're going to ask for $1.5 million, I would have that total to $1.5 million. Right now it's $1.2 million. Even if it's an other, in a footnote that talks about unforeseen irrigation issues or other things that you identified. Bob made some good points in terms of the different timelines. So I would fill in the blanks there, even if you guys are going to decide how to spread that out later. The other thing I would suggest adding would be just an annual summary. If it's gonna add to $1.5 million and you want to ask, like you've got this, the cart paths 500,000, then you've got 1A, 1B, 1C, and then these other items here. I would put it in, add a table that talks about by year. Year one, you're going to ask for 250,000 or whatever the number is. You guys decide, but be specific because that's what the boards are going to focus on, because we do have these master spreadsheets that add together all of these other numbers, and we're not going to guess for you how you want to do it. So be specific with the ask. And then the other thing is that I would suggest doing, you made a good point at the start, Mr. Harrington, about the preserving the golf course. I think that's really, you can stress that. Because if you don't maintain the course to a certain standard, people are ultimately going to start playing other places, and then revenue is in jeopardy. I do agree that if carts are not driving on the cart paths, it's putting undue wear and tear on the course. But I would suggest that looking at, and I don't have the page number in front of me, but you did talk about being in the black. I think right now we're just under $100,000 in the black, 98,000, I think was the number.
Right.
You can very easily, in Excel, estimate what the bond debt service is going to be, on an annual basis. It's just a
Okay,
water,
granted,
right?
5%.
Not only that, but Anthony, if you're listening, you've given it to me, Anthony, on everything except I don't have the driving range. But you gave me a projection of what $150,000 a year for 10 years would be.
No, I gave you those numbers. It wasn't.
Well, I can't find it. Where do you send it again?
Yeah, no worries. I think it was one of the 3 attachments, but it's fine.
But the point being, you need to anticipate what that additional debt service is gonna look like. In addition to the debt service that's running off, because there is debt service that is running off, so take that into consideration. But you need to address the revenue side of the equation as well. If you think it's gonna cost you an extra $50,000 in debt service, you need to plan it at 50,000 rounds. Plan on increasing the rates by an extra $1 above and beyond what you otherwise would. And I understand that you have to be constrained and competitive with Tashua and Fairchild, Wheeler, and Longshore, but I would venture to guess that no resident will not play here and choose to play one of those other courses because rounds are an extra $2. I agree that you have to be more sensitive on the non-resident side of things, but the residents are a captive audience. And maybe you guys put some science behind it. Maybe you don't touch the juniors. Maybe you don't touch the seniors. Maybe you raise rates for the regular by $3 or $4, whatever it is. But give some thought as to how you're going to offset this into incremental debt service. And if you bring that to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, I think it's very likely that you'll get support behind this plan. And knowing that we have the Board of Finance has our capital waterfall meeting the 3rd week in September, you guys are right on track to put this in front of the Board of Selectmen, hopefully at the end of this month, if you guys can agree tonight. And then you'll be in position to, present to the Board of Finance in September before that capital plan.
Was there any discussion with the Golf Commission about raising fees in the last year or two in the future? You raised $1, I believe, typically.
Yeah, I think when the clubhouse came up, when we did that, we had sort of a long-term projection of raising, I think, $1 each year for.
Yeah, the Golf Commission has always had a loan saving plan of $1 or $2 a year.
Yeah.
Maybe you skip a year depending on circumstances. What we tried to put forward for the clubhouse is incrementally above and beyond that natural, normal course of $1 or $2 to add another $1 or $2. And I think you guys did that.
Yeah.
But you are teetering on going from black to red. So it's just something to be.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
We can do that math. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we do raise in 2025.
I'm sorry?
I think we do rate adjustments in 25. At the January, February.
Okay. Well, it's safe to say that card fees are going up and green fees are going up. It's just whether it's $1, $2, or $3 is the question.
Right.
I would think. Okay.
Okay. Anthony, from your perspective, what would sort of next steps look like? Thanks.
Well, I think it's trying to finalize this plan. I think as Craig just laid out, if we're going to try to get before the Board of Finance for their capital planning, we're going to want to make sure that we have everything buttoned up and ready to go for September. So.
Yeah. Sounds like there's a little work to do on sort of exhibits and.
Yeah, we have some
maybe a
revenue
little
and debt service to add and
Yeah.
We'll,
maybe, I don't know. I don't think we want to be too specific on revenue. I guess put in there options on enhancing revenue without, promising anything.
well, I think we have to be pretty crisp from what Craig is saying.
I think you have the luxury of wiggle room, but conceptually, if you know that you want to ask for, if your debt service is gonna be about $50,000 a year, you need to go up $1 on average.
Yeah.
You know, if you're doing 50, you know, it's that type of, you know, big picture type of
Right.
broad brush strokes.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Okay.
My only, well, administratively, we've got can we meet crew without having to put in a formal request to create a subcommittee meeting and all that kind of stuff?
Not if you have a quorum. Like if you have a quorum, it has to be,
The three of us,
a meeting, a scheduled meeting.
Can they do executive session?
Yeah, that would be a special meeting.
yeah. Okay. We'll talk to them, we'll get our calendars out.
But are your meetings public anyway?
Yeah.
They have to be, yes.
Yeah, they are.
Because they're posted, that's right.
Posted, yeah. I think our next one is September 4th.
Yeah, we can do one next week.
Which may not-
You can always call it a special meeting, as long as you give, 24 hours notice, Prue?
Yeah, I would do even more. I would do like 48.
Well, we haven't had one person from the public come to any of these, just for the record.
Okay.
But, yes, I would agree. If we can give more than 24 hours notice, that would be great.
I went to one,
It's public.
some Republican.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right, good job. All right, so we'll hear more from you guys.
Yep, we'll get back to you.
Great. Okay, I don't want to keep us too late here, but Bob, do you want to talk, should we go over the handicaps, course handicaps and the scorecard?
So as we had talked about a while back,
This is, sorry, yeah, we're under.
the whole
Yeah,
package
okay.
here. So what the World Handicap System is recommending is more of a data-driven analysis of handicap.
Yeah.
Liam happened to do a great analysis of all this, but if you read your packet, you can read what the world, how it basically works through the World Handicapping System. And basically, they just took a bunch of data and they looked at it, more data-driven, and they make recommendations on changing the handicapping of the home. Pretty easy to follow.
And so, I think, this exhibit,
That is what they recommend. The last is handwritten scorecard, if you went through their recommendations. That's what they would recommend. The first thing that would stand out is taking the even numbers and putting them on the backside, putting odd numbers in the front. It's very rare that a golf course has odd numbers on the back. And they talk, if you look at his report, it's in his email, he says it should only happen if the back nine is significantly harder than the front. It's an interesting concept. I think it's something that takes a little time to look at, observe in your mind, because there are some significant changes. It's basically what they recommend to have accurate handicapping.
I mean, this is what the data shows, right?
number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not,
How many years did they just take, scores from?
they had a few years of
Few
data.
years of data?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we could have them run it again, but my instinct is gonna come out exactly the
Yeah.
same.
I mean, personally, I feel that, this is one of those things that, it's kind of a quantitative thing. The numbers are the numbers,
Yeah.
and, they're the experts in this. They do it all the time. In my opinion, I think we should follow what they suggest.
I agree. Any issues?
I don't think 6 is the hardest one on this.
I don't think anything, I think that's what the
Yeah,
test
I know, that surprises me, because it's such a short par five.
Let's see if you have more,
Is that before the new tee?
No, that's the new T number.
no, this data is before the new tee.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think.
Let me ask him to run it again.
I think 6 will change.
Do you have enough data?
I think we should.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cause
if that's the case, yeah,
I'll ask him. We'll circle back.
Was this as of end of last year?
It says red, so it has to be before we went to the numbers.
Yeah, it was before we went to the numbers,
Yeah.
exactly. That's a good question. How do we kind of work that?
Well, we've been collecting a lot more data too, because we've been using Opgenius across the board,
Right.
in most of the leagues and stuff.
And we know which teams they're playing?
Yeah, they put it in every time.
Oh, they do, okay.
So it's worth going
Well,
back.
let's run it there, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I'll ask them again, and,
Yeah,
I mean, everyone can take a look at this for a month. And
yeah.
Because you and I talked about
Like
it,
the next
and
year.
also, I know, but it's just, 14 moved up now, it doesn't feel like the two is
Look
accurate
at the
for the,
win number.
for the women.
3.27 by far the hardest.
Yeah,
That's pretty.
Yeah.
Evidence.
Lori, you want to put that in the plan?
I'm sorry, the T-box,
You see the number is so much higher than any other number for women. There's nothing even in the three categories anywhere. I mean, it's a full shot harder than any other hole in the whole shot. So the team needs to go across the top.
I agree. Bob, is this the same as a woman plays the twos?
Yeah, yeah. They kind of do it, like, if you see that there's another data file they give you where they pull, like, scratch to 8, different types of players, and then they kind of combine it. It's a pretty good article, the one that I put on the front, kind of explains the world handicap system.
Well, I think it's great, I would like to see it.
No, I agree, we should probably do it one more time.
Okay, so you will run it? We'll-
Yeah, I'll ask the guys from you.
The next meeting we can make the change. Okay.
I'll do those to see if I need to move,
Okay,
because we got plenty of scorecards with the old,
yeah. Plenty to use.
And I'm cheap.
Okay, so we'll push that back to
Yeah, I gotta get
September.
it fresh, and as soon as I get it, I'll send it out.
And then, Bob, you had mentioned that you had something back on suggestions for replacing the monuments things.
Yeah, so I went, there's 4 or 5 companies, and basically, depending on the material you wanna use, so the top stuff is bronze type materials, they're about 20 grand for a set for 18. There's galvanized aluminum, that's awesome. Really good aluminum for about 15, and then you start getting into the plastics and stuff for about 12.
That
You're
really
looking
helps
anywhere
with
between
the
15 and $20.
Okay. Was that something the men's group was going to,
I don't
or
think so.
no?
Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah.
Rick, sir?
Craig Curley, 29 Lakewood Drive. I am a member of the board for the men's club. We did talk about it at our last meeting, and we touched on it throughout the year. As I think this golf commission knows, the men's club did donate the existing monuments that are the stone monuments. That was probably about 25 years ago. The men's club has enjoyed the ability to sell sponsorship signs which support our scholarship program. I am the chairman of the scholarship committee as well, so I can share lots of details about that program, but it's been incredibly successful, and we have I think we have 16 students right now that are being supported by that program. And so that revenue source is important to the club. However, in terms of the initial donation, I don't believe that there was ever the expectation that the men's club would donate Team Army signs in perpetuity.
Yeah.
So if the town were to plan to replace them, and I think it makes sense to, given that they only have 3 yardages on them, they're based on color, not on number, lots of different reasons. Some of them are starting to fall over. Peter's crews tried to stabilize them. They're not in a great place a lot of times, right? They need to be moved. So if you were to consider it, I don't believe that our club has the appetite to support that type of expense. We just don't have it. That would pretty much wipe out our scholarship fund. We could probably contribute to it, if the town felt like they wanted some contribution from our club, as a good faith gesture, we could certainly discuss that. But I do believe that the club would want to try and preserve its ability to raise revenue for the scholarship committee going forward. So maybe that's part of the trade-off.
Thoughts from anybody?
Seems like a good trade. I don't know. It costs $20,000. The men's club throws in 4 or 5, and town needs the rest.
Just book that.
Anthony, do we have the appetite for that?
Did we put it in the long-term plan? I can't remember seeing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Definitely not in our operating budget. I'm being funny. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not in the operating budget. It doesn't mean that we can't put it in the operating budget, but it sounds like it's a large number no matter what we're going to do. So, yeah, maybe it doesn't seem to me that this is one of those projects you phase in. So.
Right. Yeah. That's right. All right. Put in the other rounds up to 150. Or $1,005,000.
Can you get the estimates on?
Sure, I have a few.
Okay.
Just put the high number, put 20 in.
Yeah.
Placeholder.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, priority wise, I don't know that we would want to put it ahead of trees and golf courses.
No.
So it's not gonna happen for 2 or 3 years. Okay.
Okay. I don't think we have anybody have any new business they want to bring up?
I have a couple of old things that I could.
Oh, yeah, fire away.
Quick.
Yeah.
Anthony, I sent you an email with a picture of plastic teas left by a politician a month or 2 ago, and I've seen evidence of procreation in the plastic teas with Tony's name on them. I don't want to be a complete political hack, but we took a stand. Apparently, the town took a stance years ago with another politician who had something going on. And do we have any way to tone Tony down?
Well, I mean, I already sent him the annual letter that I sent him. I mean, the next step, I guess, the commission can bring him up on some type of charges. I've also spoken to him personally, so I'm disappointed to hear that he's still leaving teas there.
I know some people have taken to taking his teas and putting them in the trash. I mean, it's getting childish, but it's sort of annoying. So I'll leave it at that. Next time I see Tony, I'll mention it to him. Any update on the nest in the locker room facility?
I think we're waiting on the lockers to be moved.
And that's the town. Okay.
Yeah, I've got to find a location to store those lockers. Obviously, we're not going to trash them, so just working at the location, which we don't have at the moment.
Got it. There is I don't smoke, luckily, but a lot of people do, and there's a place out here to my right that is a receptacle for cigarette butts, and we don't have one over here on the left. And if you look at the fire pit, it's full of cigarette butts and it's gross.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's Focus responsibility or the town or whatever, but is there any way we could get at least a receptacle for butts to the other side of the patio?
I just got 3 in today. I ordered like 4 months ago.
All right.
3 came in today.
Thank you.
Good pickup.
I don't know who would ever want to clean those butts out, but it'll be a hell of a nice project for someone. The Bridge of 13, the men's club is not going to touch that, and that's probably a low priority with snakes in there and everything, but that would be nice to get fixed. My last question is, who approves of benches on the golf course? And I'm not, should there be a time limit on how long someone's name should be attached to a bench? Because great people Hang up here. We got a problem coming.
So
Right.
initially, we started, the commission voted on those, but then Anthony took that over.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't
So,
realize that.
yeah.
But there is no grandfather provision in that property.
No, there hasn't been any, you're right, how long the
We're
person's
thinking
name
about it.
stays on there. Anthony, any?
So, I'm sorry, Anthony, so you decide, or?
Well, any requests for memorial benches will come through my office, and then if there's, we'll work with Peter Grace, and if there's space where the person wants to put a bench, we work with Peter. But at the moment, I think I don't want to say we have an unofficial moratorium on benches, but that's kind of where we are at the golf course, I believe. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong.
There's not many places left to put them on.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, we've been turning people away and, directing them towards the parks at the moment.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have, I'm sorry.
Great, thank you for this. Anybody else? Okay, communications, you saw an email from.
Here, you want these?
Sorry, thank you, I don't know where mine went. So, first we so this is similar to the email I think we had at the last meeting. The gentleman, Gene, wrote about having trouble getting tee times. I did respond to him, I think I copied all of you, it was essentially the same letter as the last guy. And then we received.
You did send the same one?
I basically kind of, it was essentially the same, the response was the same.
Could you let me know when you do that, because I'm better.
Yeah, I CC'd you, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we got it.
Service number.
Yeah. So then we received a letter from Jennifer Leeper, State Representative 132, whatever that is, or wherever that is. Expressing her, I guess, she's been hearing from people who are frustrated with the tee time system. So I'm not sure if Anthony, if you want me to respond to her or not, I'm happy to. I did not. But we did just have an audit, which I didn't see the results of.
It's not a final document yet.
Okay.
I don't think it's.
So, if I could just chime in, the first selectman decided to have an independent audit done on the tee time system. So this was at his direction. And like Bob just said, the audit is in draft form right now. It will be presented to the Board of Finance at their next audit subcommittee meeting, I believe, when it's in its final form. But, essentially nothing out of the ordinary was found. And again, Bob, you can correct me if I'm wrong or misstating something. The ultimate, the biggest finding from the audit was the demand on our golf course is tremendous, and it's only been getting stronger over the last 5 years. So, with the lack of, I think there's 80-something tee times and, hundreds of people trying to vie for those tee times each day, there's very limited inventory, and that's essentially what it came down to.
Which is not new news. Okay. So I don't feel I need to respond to Jennifer Leeper, to be honest.
That's fine.
She sent it to you?
To
the golf
the
commission.
golf commissioner.
We got the 2 emails after the agenda.
And she called me individually as well. So I did speak to her, and I told her the same thing that I just told you guys. So, I mean, she is aware of it.
Okay. So I don't feel a need, unless anybody thinks otherwise, to respond to her email.
Maybe as a courtesy,
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
but maybe.
You have the letter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna change the name.
I do have the template.
Yeah, great letter.
All right, I'll do that.
On the sidebar, the gentleman played 19 times, since May 1st.
So he's getting tee times.
That guy, Gene,
What about him?
He's played 19 times in the last 2.5 months.
In the last how long?
did he get the tee?
Since May.
I would think there'd be a long line of residents happy to have 19.
Yeah.
I've known the guy for 30 years. Why the hell he doesn't join the senior group?
Well, that was part of what I read
It
into it
fixes his
too.
problem.
Yeah, with
And I
something.
told him that for years and years and years, so. Anyhow.
Okay, so that's communications, public comment? You are who?
Greg Curley, 109 Newport Drive. First off, I have not attended one of these meetings in a while, but I thoroughly enjoyed the interaction tonight. So just wanted to say you guys are doing a great job. Wanted to commend Peter and Bob as well. Peter, the golf course was absolutely deluged, and it was a swamp, but it stood up, and I know it's really stressed, but you're doing a great job. And crew as well. I did want to ask one question, and I don't know if this is directed at Bob or Peter, but when we switched from the colored tee markers to the numbered tee markers, we talked about the 5 tees going pretty much to the back of the box on all the walls, make it truly the tips as it's described. And that the 4 tees would be somewhere between what was black and what was white. And the white markers were historically in line with the monuments, right? So one would conclude that the 4 should, unless there's an extraordinary circumstance like 2 where the tee boxes are closed, the number 4 tees should be at or behind the monuments on every ball. And I would say for the last month and a half, more than half, probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the number 4 tee boxes were in front of the monuments, or have been. And so I guess I would just ask, unless there are extenuating circumstances for tee conditions or otherwise, if there could be more of a concerted effort to get the number 4 tees behind the monuments so that the course plays as it was intended.
You might play the day I played, I move them all up when I play.
Yeah. Play the break. Julie,
That's why we have numbers now.
Julie, thank you.
Thank you. No.
Peter, did I send you the environment report? We should probably post it on the.
So what?
You did not.
Report that I got.
No, I haven't gotten it.
All right, I just got it.
Yeah.
I'll send it on.
I can attach it to the minutes. Oh, yeah, on the website.
I'll put it up in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And it should go to the other members of the commission, I think. Everybody should see it.
okay.
You can send it to the next meeting, I guess.
Do you want to forward it?
The next meeting is September 9th.
Yeah.
Bob, will you just forward?
Yeah.
You just forward around to everybody?
Sure.
Okay. Very good. All right.
All right.
8:35.
You've got the record page.
Not the longest, probably. Yeah, motion to adjourn, anyone second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yep.
Let's roll.
Nice job.
Hi.
Yeah.